Melissa grew up with her single mother for most of her childhood. When she was about 7 years old, her mother had divorced her father and left with her to live on her own. Melissa didn't understand at the time, but as she grew up, she discovered the truth behind her father. Melissa had a grudge against her father. She was witness to her mother's depression. When she was little, she used to watch her mother cry for hours after hours. She would overhear heated conversations over the phone, and all of this only made Melissa's hatred for her father increase. Melissa had been living with her mother in a small apartment in Seattle, Washington, ever since her mother moved out of her father's home in California. Melissa was attending college there, and she had wishes to move out with her boyfriend, but she chose to stay with her lonely mother and give her company. After her mother passed away, Melissa and her boyfriend moved together to LA, where they were looking forward to finishing their studies and starting their career. Melissa was truly in love with Dan. She had first met him in Seattle when she was about 16 years old. She was going through a tough time in her life, and things seemed to be falling apart for her. Melissa didn't trust men. She had a feeling all men were the same. If she would let a man into her life, he was sure to take advantage of her vulnerability. But Dan was different. Dan hadn't approached Melissa with thoughts of having a relationship with her. But as the friendship progressed, the two bonded over many things and fell deeply in love. Melissa trusted Dan, and Dan always kept Melissa's trust. One of these days, when Melissa and Dan were in their apartment in LA, Melissa received a phone call. "Hello, is this Melissa Swift?" "Yes, this is she. Who is speaking?" "This is William Swift. I'm Edward Swift's son." "I see. So how can I help you?" "Our father has passed away, and he wanted us to send news to his ex-wife, but I wasn't able to reach her. My mother would appreciate it, and I'm sure our father would have liked that you would be there at his funeral. I can't say anything for sure. I'm quite busy right now. Perhaps we could speak some other time." Melissa didn't know what to feel. She had just received the news of her father's demise. She remembered when her mother had passed away. Her father didn't even know. He didn't even care to keep in touch. Melissa was all alone at her mother's funeral. There was no one who could sit by her side and share her grief. Melissa had decided there was no way she was going to her father's funeral. He didn't deserve her presence there. But when Dan came to know of the incident, he disliked that Melissa wouldn't go. "Melissa, he was your father after all. I think you should go." "No, Dan, he wasn't a good man. He left my mother when I was just 7. All he cared about was his other wife, and today, let those people stand by him at his funeral. He doesn't need me there. He never did." "No, Melissa, this isn't right. As his first child, you should be there at his funeral." After a prolonged conversation with Dan, he finally convinced Melissa to attend her father's funeral. The next day, Melissa and Dan packed their bags and headed to Melissa's father's house in Sacramento, where Melissa had spent her early childhood. When the two got there, they met Jennifer Swift and her son, William Swift, her stepmother and stepbrother. Jennifer was about 15 years younger than her father. She still looked quite young for her age. Melissa shook her hand with the family and introduced herself. "I'm Melissa Swift." "Oh, you don't need to introduce yourself, dear. We know you very well. Your father used to mention you very often." "I can't believe he's not among us anymore. Where is your mother?" "My mother passed away many years ago. She didn't want me to send news to my father, so I hadn't called to let you guys know." "I'm so sorry for your loss, Melissa. I know you have some strong feelings against me and your father, but it's been long. We should move on past the issues and be a family." After a while of conversing with her stepmother, Jennifer soon started to break down and wept continuously. She explained to Melissa how her father hadn't left anything for them. Melissa had a hard time believing that her father wouldn't leave anything for his family, the family that he left her mother for. But she went along with her stepmother's drama. Dan got to know Melissa's stepbrother, who also spoke on the same matter. He was quite upset and disappointed that his father hadn't left anything for him. He had no inheritance that he could claim. Melissa and Dan attended the funeral and stayed 2 days at the hotel before returning to LA. But soon after they returned, they noticed something strange at their apartment. They had only been gone for 2 days, and it seemed as if spiders had managed to web up some parts of the apartment. The next weekend, Melissa and Dan spent their day cleaning out the spider webs and getting rid of the spiders. Dan, I'm not touching any of this. You clean it. I'll take out the garbage for you, but I'm not touching any spiders. Get it away from me. I hate spiders. All right. I'll clean it for you, but this is so weird. Do spiders usually do this? Were we gone for that long? I have no clue, Dan. We were gone for only 2 days. This is indeed strange. By the end of the day, Melissa and Dan were exhausted, but they finally managed to get rid of the spiders. But when they woke up the next morning, Melissa saw a few more spiders roaming around, climbing her walls, walking across her mirror, inside her wardrobe. The couple brought home some pest control spray and tried to take care of the situation inside their home. But for some reason, the spiders kept on increasing. Melissa, I think we need to call in an exterminator or something. I don't know what you're going to do, but get these spiders away from me. One night, Melissa woke up to a horrible nightmare. She woke up Dan with her shout. She was sweating and anxious. She looked like she had seen a ghost. For the first few nights, she disregarded the dreams and tried to go to sleep. But one night, Melissa woke up terrified. What's wrong, Melissa? I had a horrible dream. I saw something. It was my father. He was standing there, looking at me, and his whole body was covered with spiders. They were crawling all over him. Melissa, you need to calm down. I know why this is happening. Don't pay heed to any of these things. You still have these thoughts in the back of your mind. That's why you're seeing these nightmares. You've been going through a trauma after your father passed away. Then with all these spiders everywhere, it's actually pretty normal to see what you saw. You need to stop stressing. Try to sleep. Melissa had an odd feeling about the dream she saw. It felt as if everything unusual was happening around her for a reason. No, Dan. There must be some sort of meaning behind these dreams. Over the next few days, Melissa's apartment was literally covered with spiders everywhere, in every nook and cranny. Wherever she would step, she would see a spider crawling by her feet. These spiders have become a nuisance. It's like the spiders own this house. This has become a spider's house. Melissa looked around at the spiders. Suddenly, the look on her face changed. She turned to Dan and asked, "Wait, what did you say? Spider's house?" "Yeah, why?" "Dan, call up a lawyer and get the police. We need to go to my father's house." "What? Why?" "You'll see." Dan did as Melissa had asked. The two, accompanied with their lawyer, reached the Swift residence. Jennifer opened the door. "Melissa, what brings you here?" "Jennifer, did my father leave behind a will?" "Will? No, I told you. Edward didn't leave anything for us." Melissa entered the house with the lawyer as the police arrived on the spot. "Why are the police here? What is going on?" Jennifer demanded. Just then, William came out. "What is this? Who are all of these people? Why are the police here?" Jennifer loudly said, "This girl thinks we're hiding her father's will from her." William smirked. "Looks like someone is here to cause trouble. If you think we're hiding it, the house is open to you. Find it if you can." Melissa looked around the house until her eyes spotted a showcase in the living room. She opened the glass and pulled down a display case of spider specimens from the top shelf. She began taking it apart when Jessica yelled out, "What are you doing? You'll ruin it. This is one of Edward's memories." Just then, Melissa uncovered under the specimen board were some papers. It was a letter from her father, written to her, and attached to it were property papers of the house that stated she was the only inheritor to Edward Swift's property. Melissa opened up the letter and read her father's last words to her. It said, "Dear Melissa, forgive me for not being there for you and your mother. I know what I did wasn't fair to her, and I've regretted it my whole life. When your stepmother became pregnant, there wasn't anything I could do. Just as you are my child, William is also my child. I know your mother couldn't forgive me. She wouldn't communicate with me after that day. I tried to reach her, but I couldn't. I know this doesn't make up for my faults, but I want you to be inheritor of this house, where you were born, where I walked sleepless nights with you trying to put you to bed, where you held my finger and learned how to walk, where we used to search for spiders in the attic together. Take care, my child. From your father, Edward Swift." Dan took the papers from Melissa and began reading them. "Dan, my father left this house for me." Dan smiled. "But why spiders?" "Melissa, look over here. Let me tell you the names of all of these spiders. This is a wolf spider. This one is called a huntsman spider. This one is a white-tailed spider. Daddy, why do spiders make webs?" "Well, they use their web to catch their food." "That's so silly. How do they do that?" "Well, now that's a long story. Let's just say a spider's web is like a spider's house." "When will I have my house, Daddy?" "How about you can have my house when you grow up?" I remember when I was young, I used to visit him in his study and look through all the diagrams and sketches he used to make. I was quite interested in his work, and I often used to hang around him. One day, while I was there with him, he took out these spider specimens and began showing me. He used to research and study spiders and other arachnids. My father was an arachnologist. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.